Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week. So keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose.
Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. It's Russ and Jed back with you for our midweek. We got the news. We've got all kinds of things for individual sports. We got a lot to talk about. It's still in the summer. Things haven't started yet, but Jed, like we say each and every week, we have a lot that goes on with martial athletics, and we're going to bring it to you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's great to be back this week with you. I know there's a lot going on, a lot ramped up, just like you said. We're gonna talk some. I think we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the stuff around the herd. Just, I mean, we've got some exhibition games coming up. I mean, later this week even. So, we're about ready to jump right back in. So excited to be here.
Yeah, let's talk before we get into too much. I want to get a word from our sponsors, Leasure Oliver PLLC, but right after that, I want to get into something a little bit before the five things, and it's an event coming up, and I don't want anybody to miss it. But you mentioned some exhibition matches, and they're for soccer, so let's get a little soccer flavor here from 304carwreck.com, Leasure Oliver PLLC. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com. All right, Jed, this is what I want to talk about. August the 9th, 5 to 7 p.m., Jones C. Edwards Stadium is Fan Day. Now, we talked about this briefly. I'm going to be out of town. I will not be able to be there. But anyone watching and listening, you guys really need to go, and let me tell you about it. You're going to enter through the Herd Zone team store. So again, 5 to 7, it says come hungry. Sunshine sliders will be in the west lot. Cold drinks on us for fans 21 and up. Thank you to Miller Lite. So you can go get some sliders in the west lot. You can go in and enjoy some beers, 21 and up, inside. And they're doing a school supply drive. Bring school supplies to be donated and get a free ticket to the South Alabama football game. That is the Tuesday night game, October the 20th. So if you come and bring some school supplies, you're going to get to go in. You're going to have free alcohol, 21 and up. You're going to get a free ticket to that Tuesday night game. Help us pack out Jones C. Edwards Stadium. You're going to get to meet and get autographs from the football players, but you're also going to have other sports there represented. You've been there before. I've been there. They're going to have soccer in there. You know, you're probably going to see the basketball teams in there. A lot of the fall sports are going to be represented there. Come hungry, come thirsty, bring some school supplies, meet the players, and it's a great time. But they're also going to have inflatables, face painting, magic. Have it on good authority that our friend Joey Stepp, former offensive line at Marshall, will be there. He will blow your mind. I'm telling you, sleight of hand right in front of you. You won't even see it coming. But what a cool event. They've been doing this now for a few years, and I want to make sure that we talk about that and don't bury it in the things or around the herd right up front before we started. I want to let everybody know you can go get food, you can go get free alcohol, and you can get a free ticket to the game later this year just for bringing some school supplies.
Yeah, that's great because it's doing a lot of things at a lot of levels, right? I mean, obviously the Fan Day experience is really cool. I mean, you know, you get to go, you get to take your kids with you, you know, your friends, and kind of, you know, spend that day around these herd athletes that are putting in the hard work, right? For our enjoyment, you know, for all these games that we attend, but also it's for a great cause. You bring school supplies. obviously, those are always in high demand for schools. I mean, we always hear stories of teachers, unfortunately, still having to help do, help supply things for students in need and things like that. And that's a great opportunity to help and lend a helping hand, and then ultimately enjoy the experience, and then get a free ticket. I mean, that part's great too. I mean,
Yeah, man.
they get it. They get it. All of the players that would come in, or not players, all of the fans that would come in,
Mhm.
for a Saturday game, that live a couple hours away or live multiple hours away.
Mhm.
A Tuesday is going to be very hard to do. So what can we do to pack out the Joan? These giveaways are great. Also it helps, maybe bring in some new fans, right? Hey, I got an
That's right.
event that I get to go to. I don't really know much about martial sports, but hey, I can get some free food, some free
Yep.
drinks, and then get to take it to a game, and you win over some fans, or some new fans. And so I think
Mhm.
it accomplishes a lot of things, and I think it's a really great experience and really great opportunity, and really encourage everybody just take advantage of it.
That's
And
right.
I think it'll be a really great time.
Make sure to take the kids, because when your kids go to events like this and then they get to go to games and things like that, you're creating new fans from them. They will remember that, because think about yourself and the first time that you went to a game. And if you were a kid when that happened and you became a lifelong Marshall fan while you're watching or listening to this, pay that forward, bring kids to events like this,
Yeah,
give them a good time, and raise your kids right, right? Uh,
absolutely.
make them Marshall fans.
Mhm.
All right, Jeb, we're going to get into these 5 things, and we got a little bonuses this week. But 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week, as always, brought to us by ignite.link. And now, here are at least 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by ignite.link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. All right, we're going to kick it off with number 1. Boogie Trotter has officially been added to the football roster, as the announcement came this week that all 2022 athletes would be allowed to play one final season. Jed, we had 12 such athletes. We talked, you and
Mhm.
I, to friend of the ThunderCast, very good friend of Marshall University, attorney Steve New, who was representing these athletes. Didn't have to be local to them here in Cabell County to get the injunction, because it was a class action that came in from a judge in a Colorado district, and that lumped everybody in. And the first athlete from those 12 that has been added that we've seen, it was officially announced earlier today, Boogie Trotter. So he is going to be on the 2026 football roster.
Incredible. That's awesome. I mean, speaking from a holistic, position first, then we'll talk about, I'll give you my thoughts on Boogie Trotter specifically, but from a holistic, that I think that's fantastic. We talked, on our episode with Steve, and the unfairness between the kids that got all the extra COVID years. I think we
That's
had
right.
some
Yep.
21st year seniors,
Yeah.
playing sports, right? I was got guys older than me playing, but you had the COVID year, and then then these new rules came down, and the way that
Mhm.
these new rules came down, just this 2022 class specifically kind of got the shaft.
It left
And
them specifically out. Everyone else got
yes,
an extra year except for them.
and so it was only fair, and it was only right. And like we talked about with Steve, he felt very confident that this was something that was going to happen. I think we all were confident it was going to happen, but it was unsure. So you've
Mhm.
got these 12 athletes that didn't know, are we going to be able to come back and participate for another year, or we're going to go have to do something else? What are we doing? So it's that unsurety. So I'm glad this finally hit, right before the season starts. Real excited for all of these athletes, and we can talk about them later on. But this Boogie Trotter specifically, what a guy that you would want back on your roster for
Yes.
another year.
Yes. Yeah.
And holy crap, dude. Like, if for those of us that have been religiously listening to the position group breakdowns, we haven't gotten to the defensive backs yet, but you all have been talking about the defense as a whole, and what an impact, you know, is Boogie Trotter going to have on the defense as a whole? I mean, not just individually, which we can talk about his stats. I'm sure you can rattle through them, but so not just what he has done himself, but what having him back there strengthens these guys that are coming back, these guys that we have portaled in that we're going to have to pick up some of that weight now. That's influencing that as well. And I'm sure there's going to be a really, really good episode drop here on Friday that discusses these things. But huge, huge news. Very cool for him to have him back, and good for him too, is that he gets to have another year to play football and have that experience here. So very cool.
And I'm going to hold my comments because it's 6:15 on a Wednesday, and this will be published Thursday morning, of course. Right after you and I finish recording, I'm recording with KD that very episode. So on Friday, as you mentioned, from our recording tonight, I'm going to have a lot to say about Boogie Trotter and his impact. So there's a little publicity and a little reminder that you'll want to tune in for that. Not like we haven't had a bunch of people doing so anyway. But yeah, we're going to be talking defensive backs later on tonight, and Friday morning that will be posted, and it'll have a lot about Boogie. All right, number 2, keeping it with football, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, Jalen Slappy, and Toby Payne have made some major watch lists. CDRW for the Maxwell Award, that is the Player of the Year. Slappy for the Outland Trophy, Best Interior Lineman. And Payne for the Mackey Award, which is the Best Tight End. Jed, that is some major awards. I know it's just watch lists, but here in a second, I'm going to tell you how narrow these lists are across the country. What do you think?
Yeah, initial gut reaction is I'm not surprised with those names that you mentioned that they're getting some preseason love, getting on watch lists. I mean, the expectations are high for these guys. I mean, and so we expect great things, and so they're rightfully so getting added to these watch lists. They're rightfully so getting some of these preseason awards and recognition for what we expect for them to do this year. They're very talented individuals who I think are going to have major impacts on this upcoming season, and it's really, really great to see. So I'm going to kick it back over to you, and you tell us how tough it is to get on these watch lists.
So Carlos Del Rio Wilson is one of only 81 FBS players that has been named to this watch list right now for the Player of the Year. And you think of how many teams? There's 138 teams. I think there was 136 last year, and we gained 2. I think there's 138, and he's one of 81. And you know how the P4 bias is. They might want to throw 5 Ohio State, 4 Alabama, and so on there. Yeah. I don't know that they have. I'm just saying generally that's the way it goes for awards and everything. The Heisman, here's your finalists. They never wanted to have Randy Moss or Chad Pennington on those preseason Heisman lists, even though, we saw how it played out. Mm-hmm. Gets even better though when it gets down. That was 81. Jalen Slappy is one of only 68 interior linemen, and this is not offensive lineman; it's interior offense or defensive lineman. So he's on a short list of 68 offense and defense linemen that play on the interior for the Outland Trophy. And then finally, when you get to Toby Payne, one of only 43 players for the Mackey Award watch list. So he's already made the top 43 out of 138 teams. And some teams, obviously have 2 tight end sets and things like that. So very, very good company that these 3 athletes are keeping. All right, number 3. Marshall Athletics signed a deal making Dough Daddies its official pizza partner. In addition to providing pizza at concessions in the Joan and the Cam, As the official pizza partner of Marshall Athletics, Dough Daddies will receive a prominent presence throughout Marshall Athletics, including presenting sponsor of the Dough Daddies Kids Zone at Joan C. Edwards Stadium and the Cam Henderson Center. Now, if anyone watched the episode that KD did with Emily Suter about Herd Hospitality, they talked about this, and you can go over there and hear a lot more about the Dough Daddies Kids Zone. But also, they will be home of the Marshall basketball coaches shows featuring Julie Folks and Corny Jackson. So that is where those are going to be. Come basketball season, you can go over to Dough Daddies and be right there where they're doing their thing on the mic, breaking down what happened the previous week, previewing what's coming up that week. And then they are a presenting sponsor of the Herd Wins You Win promotion, rewarding fans following Marshall victories. If you can remember before, if the Herd wins on those, it used to be, maybe you can take your ticket stub over and get a Frosty, or you could go over. Well, now you can go over to Dough Daddies and they have a promotion for that. They will have on-field and on-court promotions featuring opportunities for fans to win free Dough Daddies pizza, premium in-venue signage throughout Marshall Athletics facilities, and again, they will be providing pizza at the Joan and at the Cam. And they talk specifically, the owner, Zane Carter, mentioned that they have put a lot of thought and effort into this, and they're trying to get their own pizza ovens installed in specifically over at the Joan so they can crank out hot and fresh pizzas. This is not something they want to make, freeze, warm up in the microwave over there, put under a heat lamp. They want to have pizza right there coming out of the oven, hot and fresh. Jed, that was a lot, but wow, what a pickup to have them. It's not just, hey, we're going to have them in the concession stands. They went all in, man. Dough Daddies did.
Well, and that's great because obviously there's an investment there that's been made, to provide these things. They're not, putting their name on there for free.
Right.
There's been an investment that's been put in as an overall experience. Increaser. I don't know if that's a word, but to increase that level of experience for the fan, and so they've been doing different things, right? We had the outdoor fencing put up to expand the concourse, so that way we could add food trucks and things like that last year, and we want to create, or the athletic department is wanting to create, a really great fan experience, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And so, having strategic partners that do that, like Dough Daddies is a great way to do it. So they're going to be sponsoring a bunch of things, the Dough Daddies Kids Zone obviously is going to be really fantastic. Sometimes you want to go to a game, but you also have a kid that, when my kids were younger, as an example, they didn't really care about football. They wanted to have fun. Yeah. And I would bring them to football games. They still come to football games, and now they're old enough to actually enjoy the game. Yeah. But before,
they wanted to leave.
Yeah, they what am I doing here watching these guys? Yeah. What is going on? And so having experiences for the family and for the fan that comes in. Obviously, we want to put a winning product on the field, but having these experiences for the fans is great. And one of the biggest ones is the concessions. How many times do we see the complaints about the concessions? And so you're going to have Dough Daddies. I pulled up the Herd Zone article. You're going to have Dough Daddies pizza on both the east and west side of the stadium, right? And if they get those pizza ovens in there, fantastic. You're going to have Chick-fil-A available on both sides of the stadium.
Yep.
There's expanded hot food options, including chicken tenders, cheesesteaks, hamburgers, and more. And then there's a family price concession menu, unlimited refill souvenir cups. There you go. I think that's really, really incredible and awesome that they're doing that. Beyond just your classic concession stand menu items, you're going to have a lot of options, which is again helps with the game day experience.
That's right. And anyone that has not seen what they've done at the Joan, make sure you go on Sunday. What we talked about at the top of the show, go to Fan Day, go in through the stadium store. But then once you're in there, you'll see how much bigger it looks with the internal fencing taken down. You mentioned, a couple of years ago, we put up the black outer fencing. Well, now the previous external fencing that was now, it was the external, now it's the internal. It's gone. They took it down everywhere. So you've only got the black fencing around the perimeter. So once you get into the stadium, man, it's just, you've got so much more room on the concourse. And that's what they're doing. They're going to set up and say, hey, Chick-fil-A is setting up here on the west side. They're setting up here on the east side. You can just go right there. And that's not crowding the already, what previously was crowded concourse, of people waiting in line. It's not like you've got to go to the one concession stand that had Chick-fil-A there and everybody else is getting their normal concessions as well. No, you go to the dedicated place that Chick-fil-A is going to be. Mm-hmm. So just super, super cool. I agree with you. It's elevating that experience from what we've seen in years past. And I think the facility staff, the athletic department as a whole, Herd Hospitality, everybody is just pulling in the same direction and making it better for the fans. All right, number 4, men's soccer starts the season ranked at number 17 in the country. Now, I have heard a lot of people, or seen a lot of people online, saying that was a major disrespect. But Jed, just like they were ranked number 2 last year, the reason they were ranked number 2 in the preseason last year was because it's a mirror of the end of the year poll from the previous year. So we're ranked 17th because that's where we finished last year. The number 1 team is who won last year. The number 2 team was the runner-up, and so on and so on. So we were ranked 17th. We just know that we're going to come in, wreck everybody, and move right up the rankings.
Yeah, it's criminal. Absolutely criminal. But I get it. I understand it. That's how these things go.
Yeah.
Then you have your first few batches of games, and then it just becomes a big shuffling. So as we like to say here on the Thundercast, in Grassy we trust, I have no doubt that 17 is something that will be the floor of this team, not the ceiling. So
that's right.
I get it for sure. Especially the way that we exited last year. We had lots of injuries. We had folks. We had guys playing in positions that they don't normally play in. We had guys playing injured, things like that. So look to see this team come out and absolutely dominate and perform this year. I'm very, very high on this year's team, and really excited to get this season started. But I get it. Ranked 17. However, on the flip side of that coin, may I remind our listeners that if this were any other sport, right? Basketball, football, and wouldn't you love to have those sports be ranked preseason year in,
top 25,
year out?
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where this program is at. So it's so funny to me to say 17 is a disappointment, and it kind of is, because our expectation is winning the national championship. But it is so cool to have a program that is competing at an extremely high level. That's the expectation, and they continue to perform that at a high level. So I don't like it. It's criminal we're 17th, but also pretty cool that for the umpteenth year in a row, we're ranked at least in the top 25.
Agree. Number 5, Randy Moss has been named to the Sporting News All-Decade Team for the 1990s. Of course, that's when he played. And they might as well have put this out in The Sun is Hot magazine, because this was a given, right? I mean, who are you going to throw in there in the 90s that would keep Randy Moss off the wide receiver list? But I'm glad that everyone at least came to their senses and didn't throw some shiny name up there that played at a different school. But Randy Moss.
Not sure if you're aware of this, Russ, as you alluded to, but did you know water is wet? I didn't
I
know if
did.
you knew
I
that.
did.
Okay.
That is also in that magazine. It was a special edition. Not much else to say with that other
Yeah.
than Randy Moss is the greatest wide receiver to ever play, not just college football. I think it's in the NFL
Yeah.
as well. I've had many an online argument with people, and especially people that did not go to Marshall. Jerry Rice's name gets thrown out, and there's some others that get thrown out and things like that. To me, there's no debate. Jerry Rice was in a system and was on the best teams at the time around. And, Moss made his teams, and Jerry was a huge cog, but not the only cog. But, um, yeah, that Vikings team, when he was a rookie, immediately became a contender, and they went 15-1. And even though they already had some pieces, it was largely because of Randy Moss.
Yeah.
And that guy has more talent, and his stats are just ridiculous. But when you look at what he did in college, it's even more ridiculous to me. So I'm glad that he got named to this, but well deserving.
Absolutely.
And now our bonus number 6, as we always say, at least 5 things. We've got a bonus this week. Marshall has announced a Ring of Honor for all sports and also announced the inaugural class. I am going to read those names off, Jed, and then I will get your thoughts on the Ring of Honor, the people that were named for the first class, and all that. But let me read these off, and I'm going to do them for particular sports. And we're going to start with a category called Special Contributors, and that's Dot Hicks. And then we're going to go to football. Chad Pennington, Randy Moss, Bob Pruitt, Byron Leftwich, Vinnie Curry, Troy Brown, and Frank Gunnar Gatsky. Men's basketball, Hal Greer, Mike D'Antoni, Dan D'Antoni, Leo Bird, Walt Wallowak, Charlie Slack, Russell Lee, and John Taft. Women's basketball, Karen Pelfrey, Christina Bainfelt. Volleyball, Kellyanne Billingy. Baseball, Jeff Montgomery, Rick Reed, Coach Jack Cook. Softball, Rachel Folden, Shonda Stanton, who was coach, and Morgan Zirkle. Obviously current coach, but in there for her playing. Men's soccer, Pedro Dolabella and Jamil Roberts. Got that golden goal, of course. Women's soccer, Amanda McMahon. Women's tennis, Ashley Crow and Jessica Johnson. Women's golf, Tammy Green. Men's golf, Joe Faganes. Men's swimming and diving, Bill No. He now has the flight school named after him. Women's swimming and diving, Mila Curto. Men's track and field, Joe Johns. Women's track and field, Leanne Parsley. Men's cross country, Dave Tabor. Women's cross country, Tina Maynard. Wrestling, Bill Cyrus. And not listed in here because it's not any sport. The 75, of course, are also being in the inaugural class of the Ring of Honor. Jed, want to get your reactions, then I'll have a little bit more about this.
Yeah, I saw this announcement and thought this was really cool to be able to take a look across all of Marshall athletics and recognize the people that have helped build programs, have had large influence on these programs, who have gone off to do amazing things, who have represented the school as they've gone off, and done these things, I'm cherry picking here, but I'm just, football. You think of a Chad Pennington, who's been such an ambassador for the program, an ambassador for the school for the decades. After he graduated and played in the NFL. It's just, all of these folks, just such anchors to their respective programs, but also anchors to the university as well. So very cool that they did that. I love that the 75 are the inaugural members of that group,
right.
And because we would not have a football program if it wasn't for the effects of what happened after and the decisions that were made to honor them by continuing to play football. And so very, very cool that they're doing that, and very great class. I assume there'll be future classes at some point and people will be added. And I'm sure a lot of what you have to talk about is more information than what I have. So initial gut reaction, I find this very, very cool that it includes players and coaches and people like that. So I think love it.
Yeah. So this will be an annual thing. So if you did not hear your favorite athlete or I know they are deserving athlete listed, well, they're going to be some of those anchors on subsequent classes. And you don't want to just throw everyone out and do it one time and kind of dilute. I mean, this is a lot of people 8 in basketball, 7 in football. That is a lot of people to throw out just for them all at one time, to where they are sharing those years. But once you start adding, some other deserving names and things on here, you want them to have their shine. You don't want to have 50 people in football listed that same year and several get lost in the shuffle because Moss and Leftwich and Pennington are the ones that are the headliners, if that makes sense. So here's how they're going to do it. The first ever Legends weekend is January 15th through the 17th in 2027, and that is when they will be inducted into this Ring of Honor. And we are going to see these at the different facilities. They're going to have, like, for instance, in football, they will have an actual place recognizing these people. I commented this on Twitter, but someone said, well, seems kind of weird that we're just copying, the Hall of Fame and everything. We're taking people that are in the Hall of Fame and then putting them, why have two different things? That make sense. Why not? Well, there are a lot of fans that live right here in Huntington that have never been in the Hall of Fame. There are some people that are watching and listening right now that may go, we have a physical Hall of Fame? Yes, we do. It's in the Chris Klein Athletic Complex. Go in where the indoor practice facility is, basically that entire lobby that faces 3rd Avenue is, the Hall of Fame, the physical Hall of Fame. But think of how many people that would be coming in from out of town and maybe not make it over there, but they're going to make it inside the facility where they're watching the game. Well, you might have 20,000 in there that are going to be seeing this Ring of Honor for football. You're going to see 5 to 7,000 in basketball. Soccer, you're going to see them there, and they're going to be prominently displayed so they can be recognized. So that's part of it. The other thing is the Hall of Fame at Marshall has some requirements. And I think, unless there are some special circumstances, and I'm thinking specifically of Gunnar Gatsky, I think that the rules, either since he was inducted or he was a special thing, you cannot play just 1 year and be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Or maybe you have to finish your year, if you play 1 year. I can't remember. It's not up on the website, but there was a big discussion about that before, because KD and I were asking each other about all these new transfers. You have somebody come in here and they just tear it up, like a Mike Green, and he was here for 2 years. But if they ever limited that and said, he can't be 2 years, well, there goes Randy Moss, there goes Troy Brown, there goes Mike Green. So there are some qualifiers for the Hall of Fame that might not necessarily be here for the Ring of Honor, that you can honor those people. And not everyone that's going to be on the Ring of Honor is going to be in the Hall of Fame, and vice versa. You might not have everybody that's in the Hall of Fame be on the Ring of Honor. I don't know. Maybe eventually everyone that's in the Hall of Fame gets on these, but definitely not in year one. So that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, they are going to induct people on Legends Weekend, January 15th through the 17th, and this will be an annual thing that they get to add more people to. All right, Jed, any final thoughts on that? Pretty
No,
big announcement.
that's a great announcement. No further thoughts. I think you covered it very, very well, and you know my position on it. So
Yeah.
very, very
I
good.
think it's been a long time coming. I think that this is something, one, that the fans have been clamoring for. I see it on Twitter a lot
Mhm.
that people have been clamoring for, but this is something that KD has, championed for on this show for years. We talked about this one of our early episodes back in season 1 when we were a new podcast, and we were talking about that. We also got on it again with the whole retire number 88 with Randy Moss, and I've answered that again on Twitter. But we're gonna get a little bit more into that on a future show. But um, we've talked about this, and a Ring of Honor just makes sense, and they have done it, and they didn't half-ass it. They did it in a great way. It's every sport. We're not talking about they just put it up for football and said, be done with it. They are recognizing every sport, and they are going to add to it every year, and it's amazing. It's great. All
Absolutely.
right, Jed, that does it for 5, and this week, 6 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by ignite.link.
For still being technically summer, that was a very, very loaded 5 things.
It was.
Lot,
It
a
was.
lot going on. So, and as we get closer to the start of the seasons, Russ, and start of the school year, around the herd is going to continue to pick up more and more and more. So we do have some things to talk about around the herd. So let's get a word from Layer One Solutions, and we'll take it around the herd and get us out of here.
And now, Layer One Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the herd.
And continuing with the theme of the summer, with a lot of what's going on around the herd, it's a lot of pickups. We're still, in recruiting, and we've got several pickups. So we're going to start with baseball. Picked up 3 recruits this week. A couple commits and and some transfers. 2027 class, middle infielder Brogan Sams from right down the interstate in St. Albans commits to the herd. He's a 6-foot. Even 170 pound. He bats right, throws right. Then we picked up another 2027 commit, outfielder Ryan Nipper from Morgantown. We'll forgive that for now. He's 6'2", 280 pounds, but says he is adding weight. Get a high schooler into a college workout program, and that generally happens. And he bats right and throws right. And then we also have a transfer, Brady Bouchard. He's a right-handed pitcher from Stetson, having spent his most recent time in Binghamton. So thoughts on these couple commits from the 2027 class and the transfer, Russ?
So the transfer first, Bouchard came, he was at Binghamton and pitched the first 2 years. And he had decent number of appearances and starts. I think he had 16 appearances, and quite a few of those were starts last year at Binghamton. He transferred to Stetson. Before, like during this offseason, he had transferred there before he got to play in a game. Obviously, it hadn't started yet. They had a coaching change. Because of the coaching change, he went back into the portal and came here to Marshall. So if you look him up, he's transferring from Stetson, but his stats are going to be from Binghamton, and that's why. Righty had a higher ERA than you'd like to see as a starter, but he lowered his ERA as the year went on and as they got into conference play. And if you're at a place like Binghamton, if you think of that, maybe they were playing in their out of conference. Some of these, go play how Marshall played their out of conference in softball. You're going down and you're playing Florida State, you're playing Florida, and you're going on these loops and things to where you're playing highly ranked teams and they can put up a lot of runs on you in a minute. So he lowered his ERA as they got into conference, and that's always a good sign. But what we've always said is stats that have been at other places, they may be a little bit of an indicator, but let's say that the guy had a little bit higher walk rate like we had for a recent pitcher. Well, that might be one little small minor mechanical issue that gets fixed here. And when you fix your walk rate, all of a sudden your ERA's down, everything's down, and you put up better stats here. So don't let that scare you. The middle infielder, Brogan Sams, and the outfielder, Ryan Nipper, both good sized kids. Both put up some really good stats in not just high school, but in the other leagues that they play in, those academies and the camps and things like that. So both of them are highly rated, and these are good in-state gets.
Yep. Very good. Very good. Bouncing on over to basketball, we picked up Michael Bell Jr., who is a 6'8", 200-pound guard wing from TLAP Sports Academy in Glen Carbon, Illinois. And that's been officially announced after committing to Marshall back in mid-June. So that is now official, and we welcome Michael to the team. So thoughts on that, Russ?
He is hyper athletic. If you look at some of his highlights of just videos of him messing around, he's got him on Twitter, and you can look him up over there. But he's got some very impressive windmill dunks just from a standing, take one step, windmill, highly athletic. That 6'8" size, but he can play guard. We have talked earlier in the year about what a tall and long wingspan team that we have, where you could run guards out there at 6'8". Here's another one of them. So you love to see that. He's a late addition. They had initially said this was the final piece, but this makes us roster spot 14. There is one left over, and just kind of remains to be seen who will come into that. But very, very good pickup here. Again, athletic, shoot from outside. Just seems to be able to be a really good fit for this team of Corny Jackson and this offense and things.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that these stats don't always translate, but it was listed on Herd Zone. He averaged in high school 18 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game, and 2 steals per game. So
yeah,
seems to be a multifaceted player, and seems like to be a really, really big pickup here for Coach Jackson. So it'll be very interesting. You're talking about basically a whole brand new team from last year. So it's going to be very fascinating. I'm excited to get basketball started because I'm very curious to see how all these players can mesh and meld together in just a short period of time. So Coach Jackson has his work cut out for him, but I think he's proven himself over the last couple of years. So excited to get that season underway. Well, we're going to go ahead and kick it over to men's soccer. Pick up Jack Shannon, transfers from UNC Greensboro. But last year, he actually played at Drexel last season.
Yeah, another one of those situations, just like with Binghamton and Stetson. He transferred to UNC Greensboro in January, but obviously we haven't had a soccer season since then, and he transferred back out and is now here at Marshall. He had a very, very good freshman year at Drexel, and I want to talk about that real quick. 5'7", 143 freshman, originally from Houston, Texas, Kingwood High School, played in 15 games, started 14 of them, had a 3-game point streak. Now, remember in soccer, you can get a point for an assist or a point for a goal. led the team in minutes played as a freshman. That's a great sign. And again, started 14 of the 15 games. Finished the season tied for third in points from the as a freshman. Named to the All CAA third team and the All Rookie team. So just a really decorated freshman season. Like you've already mentioned, in Grassy we trust. Cannot wait to see what he can do after some tutelage in this program and playing. We've mentioned this before, but sometimes when you're playing a sport like soccer or a sport like basketball that is such a team sport, if you go and play on a team that is better top to bottom, it's easier for you to put up more stats and play well when all your teammates are on a higher level playing field. So, love to see what he can do here with the juggernaut of the roster that we have.
Yeah, that's and I know it's not unique to us, but one of the things that Coach Grassi has done a great job with his staff is taking a lot of these international kids who speak different languages and teach them, and they already know the language of soccer, but teach them his language of soccer and that system that he runs and uses, which is very, with soccer especially, it is such a team sport and you have to play in unison. It usually doesn't bode well if you're reliant on just one or two players. You'll have those players that have that ability to score. They have a knack for finding the open space. They have a knack for finding the back of the net or finding that right pass for an assist, things like that. But it is such a team sport that you have to, kind of forget, especially if you carried your team before, in high school or in previous clubs or what have you, to work inside of this team and to watch the teams over the last few years, just gel together and become a singular unit is impressive. It's absolutely impressive. So you take a kid like this, put him in the system, and you take that individual talent and inject it into the team format. And it's hard to tell what we'll see, but a great pickup. Grassie's always going after that high level talent, and they're coming in and in Grassy we trust. I got to get the t-shirt made. I haven't done that yet. And I need to just get over it and just do it. I just need to get it done before season starts.
Put a pin in that. Remember what we were talking about. Put a pin in that.
Okay. I like it.
This is probably a good place, too, for us to talk. It's not in your notes there because you mentioned it earlier about the exhibition games. Let's go ahead and talk about it since we're talking about men's soccer. Yeah. But they'll be on the field on Sunday. It'll actually be in Delaware, or facing Delaware. And no, that's women. I'm sorry. They'll be playing Seton Hall in New Jersey. And the game time has not been announced yet, but this Sunday they're going to be in an exhibition at Seton Hall. The women's is the home game, and that'll be at 7:00 versus Delaware at the Vet for an exhibition. And again, you'll be at the Joan 5 to 7 for theirs. So sneak out of the Joan around 6:45, walk or drive down to the Vet Park, and you'll have already tailgated because you'll be there with all of your favorite players and everything. And you'll just go right on down and watch the women play Delaware in an exhibition.
Yeah. Hey, you keep an eye out on that. You keep an eye out on the women's team this year too. I'm telling
you. They've turned the corner. Now they're going up the stairs.
Absolutely. So, well, last but definitely not least, a couple of new players were announced this week for football as well. Andrew Hamad is a 6 foot, 230-pound, quote unquote hybrid linebacker, and he is transferred to us from the University of Albany. And we also picked up Deron Parks, a 2026 offensive lineman from local, right down the interstate, Nitro High School. Commits after previously being committed to Florida and North Carolina. So, thoughts on those pickups, Russ?
Florida State, and he committed to them. That's all right. He committed to them, and then something happened. I can't remember if it was coaching change or if it was something, but he decided that he was going to decommit from them and way before signing day, and he ended up going to North Carolina. Well, in the state championship game, he hurt his knee, and he ended up. There's an article that's inside Carolina sports, North Carolina sports, way back in February. He was no longer going to be on the roster. There was 2 players. He was one of them that was no longer on the roster. So this isn't something that happened this week. He has just been, trying to find where he's going to go, and he ends up here at Marshall. And when we say this guy's highly touted, he had 48 offers, Jed. We're talking about Ohio State. We're talking about, obviously, North Carolina, Florida State. A who's who of P4 teams wanted this kid. Now, they have listed him, it's usually around 6'5", but he's been listed anywhere from 300 pounds to 360, depending on who is reporting it. So he seems to be around that 350-ish range. And he also has been as high as a 4-star, but as low as a 3-star, depending on the rankings and the system that you follow. Coach Gibson talked about him in his initial pre-practice fall camp press conference. The very first question that came out, because it was timely, it was that day, they said, "Can you talk about Deron Parks?" And he said that where he hurt his knee, he would not be playing in 2026. But they went ahead and got him here. He's going to rehab all year. He'll be he's already enrolled in school. Enrolled yesterday or whatever. So he's going to be here. He's going to be in school. He's going to be with our athletic trainers, with our physicians, with our strength and conditioning coach, the nutrition, everything that you're going to be able to get so we can have him ready for next year. It's a very, very big get, but I don't want anybody thinking, if they didn't hear Coach Gibson's comments, that, oh, well, whose spot is he going to take, because he was so highly touted on the starting line. He's not going to be playing this year.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And Jed, we accidentally skipped softball, but we had softball there. We went right into baseball.
But, I scrolled down. You're right. We got one last pickup. I'll just name drop her real quick. That's my apologies there. I got a little scroll happy on my notes. We picked up a commit to softball, Kira Bailey, 2027 class shortstop from Gahanna Lincoln High School in Blacklick, Ohio. And based on what I'm seeing here, she's got a whole litany of stats here. I don't know if you've got that in front of you.
But go ahead, run with them.
All right. Starting at the top. 3.93 GPA. Ohio's stolen base leader in 24, 25, and 26. 76 stolen bases in 26. 60 stolen bases in 25. All-state selection in 2025 and 2026. 2026 Columbus Dispatch Player of the Year. 2026 Central District Player of the Year. And OCC Ohio Player of the Year in 2025 and 2026. Sounds decent.
Pretty good. And, we have been picking up some absolute studs there on the softball, and you love the direction that we're going. Coach Zirkle has just been killing it with recruiting, and it's one of those things that a bunch of people are eating crow, and not in a bad way. They never said it as a detriment. It was a concern that they had of, because she is still playing professionally with the Bandits and, the USA team and everything, what would recruiting look like? And those concerns have largely been put to bed with, one, the product we've been putting out on the field, but two, when you're picking up just recruit after recruit after recruit, it seems to be working for her and her staff. So, awesome pickup, and that was also an awesome around the herd, and with all the pickups that we had to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is all I've got for Round the Herd, brought to us by Layer One Solutions.
Well, that's all I've got for everything. And again, make sure you go to Fan Day and make sure that you listen to those or watch those position group breakdowns. That's where I'm headed right now, Jed. I'm going to hop out of this studio with you and hop in another one with KD, and we're going to knock out the defensive backs. So be looking for that on Friday. But whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Cam, whether you see us at the Vet, or whether you see us at Fan Day, on Sunday, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, Go Herd. It's the Thundercast, and we'll see you very soon.